All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Julie Ballard. I am the principal of Tavan here. And we've been awarded Tavan, a project that we are able to modernize our school, and I'm really excited about it. A little bit about me. I've been here this is my 20th year, and we haven't been remodeled for 20 years. So it's really exciting for our teachers. It's really exciting for our school community. And we wanted to kind of share out, what we've done so far in this process. But first, I wanted, for those people who don't know us here, I wanted to share with you, a video was created about our school and about our culture through our Be Kind project. And we were, I guess, highlighted at the Be Kind Gala for our Be Kind school. So we wanted to kind of share about our culture, so those of you who might not know. Will be best.
People project changed the way we look at character education.
I started with a simple conversation where we introduced ourselves, and now we're best of friends.
I was principal at Tavan in school. They're modeling for kids kindness. So for us, it was embraced by our staff and embraced by the kids and even the families. My first year teaching first grade at Tavan was the first year that Tavan had ever had the Be Kind People project. And it was really cool to have them come in and just kind of watch that immediate kind of culture switch. They come to our school and make cool dances and show us the Be Kind part. Be Kind part is a list of character traits that make a good person. So when I first saw them, I was like, wow, they're really cool. I kind of want to be like them. Make you feel like you're special. Some people don't realize that it's hard to blend in with other people. Like, the Be Kind group made me make more friends. It's curriculum where this teaching the children how to be kind is critical, especially in our world today, because there is so much violence that kids see now. There's more that they're exposed to now than ever before. And I don't know what they're learning at their house. And I have to assume that they don't. So my job is to teach them.
At the end of the assembly, they will give you the card to give out to people who I didn't make nice. I'm always giving them to my parents, my students.
My secretaries now are the leaders on campus. They know what it looks like to be a Tavan scholar. They know what it looks like to be a Be Kind kid.
Even if I don't even have to talk to them about kind of saving talk to me.
The effort is walking through the school with the students are actually building a culture. They're very inclusive and they want everybody to come play with them. They love the buddy bench.
The buddy bench is if you see somebody sitting there all alone, but sit next to them and talk to them and you just become friends with them. I remember when I was in the play bench and so much people came and sat with me and asked me to play and kind of choose who to play with.
It's important for kids to have that language that they need to be able to express themselves in a kind way or a respectful way.
We teach kids, and I tell parents this all the time, we teach them how to behave through kindness. And it adds all of the difference. Our kids are kind and they can identify what it is.
So anyway, when we met with our visionary committee and we were looking at what do we need to do to modernize to make this place a better place for the kids, and so tonight we have Neil here, who's our architect. We have Dennis Roller, who are building services, and they're going to be here to share what the experience was for our visionary committee and what we've come up with at this time.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. Thanks for those that are online watching. We'll try and use our outside voices to make sure everyone can hear. We've had a little technical difficulties with our microphones. Just a little housekeeping. We're going to encourage you to get your cell phones out. We've got, through our presentation, we've got menti.com. We're going to use Mentimeter to document our process and the conversations and the questions and all of that. So we've got it so that we can share with people that did not make it to the meeting. And for those of you that are online, you can submit your questions, although we encourage you to use Mentimeter. You can submit your questions through the online application. So we'll monitor that, keep track of that, and make sure that we try and answer as many questions as we can. We are very early in the process. We've had a few visioning meetings. Visioning meaning that we have teachers, parents, community members, the contractor, the architect, district staff, and obviously the school staff here as part of a process in which we figure out what it is that we're going to do for the school. So I'm going to let Neil kick things off, get things going, and we'll try and answer all your questions tonight.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening. My name is Neil Peratt. I'm with SPS Plus Architects. We have the honor of working with Tavan and their district and their school to engage the community and work on a new project for the school. So first off, I applaud you for being here tonight. You took the first step. You said, hey, I'm going to show up. You could have not shown up, right? So I appreciate you for doing that. And that also shows some passion and some interest. So just to kind of orientate you, Core Construction's in the house. They're in the back row. They are the awarded contractor to do construction on the campus. SPS Plus Architects is myself. I have Megan here as well, helping me from the office. And we're going to be on the journey and pulling the design, the vision together as a group. This is meeting number 1. There will be multiple meetings. This is an open book, transparent process with the community, and we want to get your input and your feedback and allow you to understand as the vision progresses and where it's kind of going. So again, this is step 1 to that. If you want to go next slide. And go one more. Agenda for tonight. We're just going to kind of lay the groundwork, kind of let you understand what we're doing here, what the concepts are, where we're kind of bringing some ideas on paper, and then ultimately what the outline and the scope of the project is. So we're going to talk about some facts. We're going to engage you through Mentimeter to get you some feedback online as well. And then we're going to talk about some logistics of the concepts that we've kind of started to develop with the visioning team. By a raise of hands, tell me if you are a parent of a student here. Just raise your hand up. If you're online, you can also raise your hand up. Okay, there you go. Okay, if you are a neighbor or local community member in the adjacent area, raise your hand. Very good. All right. There's the interest right there. So we will get some questions on that, obviously, right away. If you are a staff member with the district or in any capacity, can you raise your hand? Good. Got a couple there. Thank you all for being here. If you're on the visioning team, anyone in the house, I know we have a couple here right now. Very good. Thank you for your time and your dedication and volunteering. So good. We have good representation in here. So, want to go to the next slide? So ultimately, what we're trying to do with this modernization is improve the learning environment for our students. So we're going to go through a couple questions here to have you reflect on when you were in school versus what you see today in school. And I want you to put your comments up here and they'll start to flutter in. So what are your top 3 favorite things about the Tavan culture? We don't have a lot of parents here. So if you're from the community, maybe outside looking in, talk about some of that stuff too as well.
So if you look across the top there, it's got the Menti.
Right here's menti.com. Yep. And then here's your code. If you go to menti.com, you can go in there and they'll ask for a code. It's 85449552. If you get kicked out, it's okay. Just type that number back in, it'll kick you right back in. You cannot go ahead on the presentation. I know we've got a lot of type A personalities in here, I'm sure. but we're going to answer one question at a time. Raise your hand if you have difficulty getting in. All right. So just so you know, as the words come in, the words that get larger are duplicates. So people have said it multiple times versus words that are just said once. I like it. We got best teachers. You like that, Julie, right? That's really good. Diversity. A good neighborhood feel. Yes, we heard that quite a bit on this, that it's a neighborhood school. It sits right in within the community. Learners. Chickens. Chickens. We got chickens? All right, we got chickens.
We got chickens.
Awesome.
Not yet.
We'll have more chickens.
Every year we do.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So you can kind of see the heart of everything we're talking about right here is diversity. I can check on you and see how many people are inputting. So there's a little number over here. So I encourage you to kind of input as much as you can in here because we can kind of track and see who's actually there. So we've got 7 people putting different information in. So, excellent. So this is called a word art. We use this to kind of outline our culture, and we can use these as guiding principles. So as we start to make design decisions down the road, we always want to go back and make sure we're hitting these key points and bringing these to life in the design. All right, so I want to go to the next one. What are your favorite types of learning spaces? So when you were little, or if you've been to the school, you can talk about the physical environments. Maybe that's climbing in a tree and reading a book. Maybe that's sitting on a swing out in the playground. Maybe that's an actual classroom, a rug, an area in the corner. So those are things we want to kind of listen and hear about. What impacted you when you were a learner? All right, we got some good ones here. Round table setting. Yes, the idea that it's a collaborative conversation. Small groups. Yes, it's not just a 1-to-30 ratio anymore. You do a lot of peer-to-peer, small group breakouts to get some more intense learning environments. Outdoor learning environments. Yes, especially in Arizona, we have the opportunity to extend the classroom outside. I know Julie and the team have been talking about that quite a bit. How can we take the classroom currently, get some shade, and move it outdoor and get some connectivity? Computer lab. That's an interesting word these days because we don't have a lot of computer labs. Most of the time, you used to remember there's a whole classroom with 36 computers, and we actually move out of the classroom, shift into the computer lab, and shift back. Now, with one-to-one technology these days, it's really right on. Every one of you have a computer in your hand right now, if I can tell, because you're participating. So that environment's entirely changed a little bit. So I know as a visionary team, this is a topic they're going to actually explore and realize, do we need a dedicated computer lab, or can that be mobile? Can that computer lab that's dedicated now turn into something else? Is there some flexibility we can start to work with this environment? Excellent. Right, want to go to the next one? Was that now? Can you hear me? Oh, pretty well. Can you hear me? All right. Good. All right, next one. These are kind of favorite types of learning spaces. So this idea, let's break down some ideas of what you use in those spaces. So is that the idea of technology? Is that the whiteboards? Is that different types of surfaces? Those things I want you to kind of think about when you talk about the learning spaces. Is this stuck? I got 18 here, but it's not coming in. Is this showing up over there? We can go to the next one if it's not showing up. Okay, let's go to the next one. What parts of the environment contribute to quality learning spaces? So think about this as if like natural light, daylight, outdoor spaces. What's that?
Like 3 times. On that last slide.
Oh, that last one, yeah, I think I got stuck in the last one. We're gonna go, something was right there. Okay, so this one's coming in. Let's try this one. Is everybody seeing this one on there? Should let you go to the next question. Fresh air, for sure, these days. That's definitely a hot topic. Fresh, clean air, outside air. HVAC control, not too cold. Yeah, some of these buildings are older, right? That was a big topic. Hey, can we make sure the water's running? Can we make sure the AC turns on? Can we make sure the power works? Organization, yes, that's a good thing. And some of that is based on the scale of the classroom, the idea that we can organize in smaller groups and larger groups. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, it's reloading it. Okay.
It says lifting the giving and input, even though it's
On your side? Okay. All right, we got one more of these and we'll get through this so this works. What are the top 3 improvements you'd like to see made to the school? So this is the idea of, if you've been to the campus and you look at some ideas, what do we need to improve? Whether that's increase the cafeteria size, whether that's add more play fields, playground, parking, those kind of things. That is definitely a neighborhood comment there. We have found the number 1 item. A new gym, a real gym. Yes, a real gym. And as we move through this, just so you know, there are district standards that we start to work through when we design for an elementary school that are different than a middle school and different than a high school. So when we get to the idea of a real gym that has different components that we'll begin to work through as a design. Bring building classes off Osborne's main campus. Is that the south side, or is that what that's referring to? Yes, the south side, the preschool area down there. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Hold the microphone just like this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's a little, just so that way they can hear you a little bit better.
Perfect. It's really loud. Okay. Enough classrooms for subjects to increase cafeteria size. Talk about that. Parent pickup and drop off and traffic control. So one thing we talked about, we've observed the pickup and the drop off with the community and the parents, and we've witnessed that. So that is something we've kind of experienced and we've talked about. That is a hot topic on the visionary team. So we are exploring ideas. We will engage a traffic engineer and talk about how we can improve that. We do have standards we have to meet with the city and working with them. And obviously the idea of improving is the intent. We've talked about it, the need, or the ability to solve is maybe not always the end product, but the idea that we can totally improve this and look how to get more cars onto the campus and the queuing lines and get a little more efficient and help that traffic along around more. Because it does block it and impact it quite a bit. We're gonna go to the next one. Couple facts about the project. So if you look at the aerial here, this is Osborne right here. This is the community around it. This is the current configuration on the north side, and there is a current configuration on the south side. This is currently used as preschool with some playgrounds areas on this side and some parking. This is the main school. We're sitting right in this building right here. This is the cafeteria.
If you look north of it, that is Arcadia High School. And that, so, I assume most of the community members here tonight are in somewhere in this form or fashion? No, okay, a little further out? Okay, excellent. I'll go back to that one quick. I just want to go through it more. So Tavan was actually constructed in 1955 as far as the age of the school. It was built at that time. There have been multiple new construction added to the campus over the years. It got as high as 93,000 square feet at one point, and then some buildings were demoed during those constructions to kind of get some more open space and efficiencies out there. Currently, right now, we're residing around 73,500, over 72,500 square feet. So part of the design concept is how much more square footage needs to be added, how much current square footage needs to be improved. So it's not necessarily just increasing that number, because as a district, we have an efficiency on how much student count we're trying to do here capacity wise. So it may be more improving the current facilities, not necessarily adding to them. Though we know as a community, this school has the potential to continue to grow a little bit. So we want to build in for that growth so that we know that this money is available in the current bond, and we have to go for future bonds if we're to impact the school more. The current capacity right now we're floating on is around 715 in that range. It on average is about similar to the other districts in the school. They're around 750. Some get up as high as 800, but currently we are sitting around 715. Next one. So a couple things that are unique about the campus. It has the largest number of specialized programs in the district. So this is actually a destination school for specialized programs. It was something we learned very unique. And that is actually kudos to the staff, the quality of education and learning environments that they provide here. It's the patience, it's the kindness, it's everything that they have in the event. So we walk the facilities, you can actually see some of the current classrooms are configured in unique ways to actually support some of those specialty programs. So that's something we've got to keep in mind as we design. We're not just designing generic general classrooms, we're designing some specialty classrooms that are unique to the learning environments. And we're trying to understand the proximity of those in relationship to the rest of the other students to kind of see how that blends and varies together. Budget, 6.75 million is allocated out of the bond budget to improve the campus. Then there's an extra 1 million in adjacent ways funding. So adjacent ways funding means that anything off-site related to Osborne, the access, the entryways, any of that, or anything related to a fire lane or bus lane that comes onto the campus can be paid for out of adjacent ways. So we know some of the challenges are traffic. So we know we have some funds available to improve that fire lane and extend some of that queuing lane through the adjacent ways. That is a very special fund and has restrictions. So we worked with the district to make sure that those funds are allocated and actually gets approved by the state before anything is moved forward. What actually entails the scope? So right now we are looking at renovations to the existing campus. We are looking at new construction because we're in early design concepts. So we're not going to throw anything out yet. So we are talking about possible new construction. The amount of square footage, we're not sure yet, but we could be demoing. We know we're demoing some portables. There's a couple of portables that reside on the site. We know we're demoing those. So we have to offset that square footage that we demo out, and we have to add some new. The type of new construction we're still exploring in the visionary team. And then we know we got some site work. We have parking, we have some fields, we have some landscape, we have some frontage. So we're all going to improve as well on that side. Next. This is a time to stop. We'll have 2 more times during the presentation to ask some questions. You just want to type in some immediate questions. This could be the exact reason you came here tonight to kind of get this off your chest and talk about it. This is a great opportunity for it. If you have any questions that we talked about right now, this is a great opportunity. Has there been any comments online or anything to that form of fashion yet? Good. Did we get a thumbs up that they can hear us and see us and everything's good? I see some people typing, so we should see some questions pop up here. How long will construction take? Great question. Dennis, you want to take it? I can take it, your call.
Well, we can go 17 it.
Okay. That depends. It depends on actually where we land. So we may very well begin with 6 months of renovations and then another 6 months of construction, just depending on where we land with the visioning committee. So as we go through the process, we'll determine what the scope of work is in the renovated buildings and then how much square feet we need to either demo and then replace. Sometimes it's really about the configuration of the buildings, the way the parking lot is set up. That's going to be the key to fixing the traffic. You can't leave it as it is. The way it is, it's a nightmare. So it really depends. It could be as little as maybe 10 months, but I think it's more realistic to say 12 to 18 months with multiple phases of work. And just to add to that, when we look at multiple phases, we select specific times of the year. We'll do that over the summer. There's a certain amount of construction we get done over the summer, which would be like the parking lots, things like that. And then during the school year, I will say core construction was selected for a reason. They are very familiar working with K-12 education environments, and they are working on occupied campuses. And safety is #1 priority for the district, for the contractor, and for the school. So they are very familiar with that, and there will be at some point some construction going on, but it will be safe #1 priority. Next question. That was it? Any more questions? Please scroll down to the next one.
Yeah, just bounced everything out.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay, when is anticipated construction supposed to start? That depends. Right now, getting through this process, getting that done, making sure that we give everybody the opportunity to talk to us, to give us their suggestions, to work through the design process, to get the contractors to price the job, make any adjustments to make sure we're staying within budget. We really hope that we can get something started late in the spring. We're fortunate in that we have some what we call swing space across the street. There are some classrooms that are vacant. So there might be an opportunity for us to get into some classrooms and start doing some renovations. But realistically, any of the heavy lifting will likely start happening in the summer. I won't say it depends anymore. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, next question. What is the project schedule and when will it start? Okay, so we answered that. We just talked about that a little bit, right? Okay. Has the smell in the bathroom been resolved permanently, if not fixed? I have thumbs up.
Right?
Yes.
Thumbs up.
It's been a problem down here, and I don't know the building number, but it's been a problem for 20 years. After they built the building, it was never fixed.
Okay. And then which building is that, the admin or the?
No, it's a building, I think it's 15.
Okay. So yes, as you see, we get deeper into this, bathroom improvements and additions are a top priority here, so that is something that will get fixed this time around.
It's not safe for the kids.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions? As neighbors, what can we expect construction-wise? Good question.
It depends.
If you have them, you get these in. We will try very hard not to interrupt your lives. Construction is construction, and that means heavy trucks, a lot of equipment, things moving around, noise. But bringing on for construction, they understand all of that, and they understand that we need to respect our neighbors. So we can't promise you silent night. But we will do everything we can to be as quiet and as considerate as possible. If we have work that's happening, I remember a time when we were building Hopi, the job site superintendent, they had the framers there and they were cutting all the metal studs, and it was right next to one of those buildings. And the principal came out and alerted the job site superintendent. He took care of it immediately. So not only from a neighbor standpoint, but from a learning standpoint, it's super important that our team is being as invisible as they can possibly be while renovating and or building buildings. Could traffic get worse? I can't imagine how that could possibly happen. But there may be some short periods of time, and we'll be sure to alert you that, hey, we're going to be doing this, and it may cause a bump in traffic, or it may cause a little restriction here or there. We can't say that it'll be perfect, but traffic's pretty bad now, so we don't have far to go to rock bottom. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, we're all in this together. So everyone's, we've talked about this on the community team as well. Everyone's going to have to compromise a little bit. It's been a long time coming for the school. And so for a short period of time, whether that's 6 months, a year, whatever that ends up being, it's for the greater good in the long run. So we do ask for some patience and open communication in the process for sure. Next one. When is anticipated construction supposed to start? We talked about that. It depends. What is the project schedule when it will start? We kind of alluded to that a little bit. Kind of work through that. With your experience, what type of renovations have improved the learning environments the most? Open spaces, social areas, etc. That's a great question. That's a great question. So a lot of that really, what we've experienced, we've worked with a lot of districts and schools, and it really comes out of the culture of the school. So some schools are very traditional, some schools are a little bit more collaborative and 21st century learning environments. And so that's why we really want a time of discovery and submersion into the culture to understand that and what we're trying to do here. So yes, we have seen great success in collaborative spaces and breakout spaces and extension classroom. Classroom used to be 900 square feet, a 30-foot by 30-foot box. Now it's breaking out of that and trying to figure out how we can learn in different areas of the campus. We have seen great success and great movement in that. With those challenges come academic challenges. How does the teacher actually deliver the material? Technology has helped that quite tremendously. And also just the exposure and the learning of those teachers in different environments has really helped that as well. So that is a learning curve that all of us are going to have to go on to kind of develop some new and unique environments. Next. Will the community get to vote, have a say on design concepts? Great question. So this is meeting number one. We have multiple meetings. This isn't one and done. As we get deeper into design, we'll bring back concepts, we'll bring back renderings, we'll bring back fly-throughs, we'll give you that full feel before it's built. There's no question about it. Tonight, we're actually going to have you vote on a few things. So this is the first one. And these are not designs. These are initial just thoughts put on paper by the committee. And they're not full thoughts. It's not fully realized. It's just to let you know where we're at in the process. Okay. I'm going to do one more just for the sake of time, and we'll get back to some of these others. I think we have 14 total here. Is everybody okay with that? We'll have another session for questions too. So, if the Memorial Sundial is moved, it needs to be correctly reset. I had it built from scratch because previous contractor did not relocate it correctly. Yes? It's in the front of the school. In the front of the school. Part of our immersion into the campus is identifying some of those important pieces, the sacred items that we need to continue to move forward. We've done that at other schools. We've recently completed a school of Hohokam. They had a wall mural that we had to protect during the whole construction to make sure it stayed in place. We also had some artifacts for some memorials to different students or staff that had passed away in the past years. We collected those and be able to put those back into the appropriate spaces. So yes, that is a major focus in the design concept as we move forward. And whoever that is, we can bring you in and help with your expertise and help make sure we're setting it right so there's no questions asked. Okay. All right, we'll go to the next one and we'll come back to some of these questions at the end. Who is the visioning committee? So this is a committee that was kind of selected by Julie and her staff, and it kind of composes administrative, district staff, teachers, and parents. And as we've had, by show of hand, we have about 3 or 4 in the audience tonight. We have met probably 3 or 4 times as a group. You can kind of see we meet in the library over on campus. We tend to meet there in the afternoons as soon as school lets out, around 3:30 to 5:30 range. And there's kind of where we're meeting. And we meet in small groups. There's about 25 people on the committee. Those who are not on the committee, we use this format to get some additional information from the community members and make sure that we have everyone on board of where we're going. You can see this is an exercise of just some block building. I'll basically say, hey, if you were to add a building here, if you need some more classrooms, what works on the campus, what doesn't, and they kind of talk about it, collaborate, and bring some of those concepts to life. You'll see 3 of those concepts here shortly. Next. Out of the visioning committee, we develop priorities, because again, those are our guiding principles. When we start to make decisions on design, we got to make sure we're fulfilling these priorities. Part of the prioritization is realizing that we only have so much dollars. We only have $6.75 million to spend on this campus. So we have to prioritize, because we know we may start at number 1, 2, 3, but not get to number 4 just because the monies will run out. So that's why prioritization is extremely important. So we're going to do that on this level from a community standpoint. We're also did that on a visioning committee standpoint. I'm not going to show you the committee's results yet. We're going to talk to you tonight first, and then we'll compare those 2 and see how they overlap. All right, so priority number 1. It really deals with the south building down here at the preschool. The idea is we want to get all of this academic learning environments pulled up to the north side of the campus. That was priority number 1. They do not want any extended learning down across Osborne and traffic back and forth. So they're going to pull the preschool into the campus here, and that's one thing we've got to figure out how we're going to absorb that and improve those learning environments. They do have 4 classrooms for pre-K and Panda over there currently. When Dennis used the word swing space, this is what he was referring to, is as you can see, there's actually 6 classrooms down there. They're currently only using 3, but the district does have some other uses. So when we start to phase the construction, there will be some times where teachers have to shift down, occupy these through a portion of the year, while portions of the campus being renovated, and they can shift back up once it's completed. So that's when we refer to swing space, what we mean by swing space. All right. Other thing to keep in mind when we do bring the preschool onto campus, there is a couple different vehicular movements. Currently right now it's a K on campus, so you can just drive through and drop off. When we do pre-K, it actually have to park and walk in and check them in. So that movement's a little different when we talk about vehicular. So it does impact what we're trying to do as far as efficiency on the campus. And then obviously we've got any kind of play structures, any outdoor learning environments that they have right now, we've got to substitute those and bring those over to the campus as well. That is a licensing issue that we have to meet from the preschool standpoint. Next. Number 2 priority was drive-through student drop-off safe and efficient. I will have to admit, you have a well-oiled machine for as crazy as it is. I've seen some crazier ones, believe me. It's well signed, it's well staffed, it is very efficient. I've actually been in the library to see the whole Rubik's Cube of numbers that are coming off and identifying who's coming in. So both internal and external, it does work really well. It's just, it's a lot of vehicles that kind of come through a small portion of the site. So again, that's something that we're looking to improve. By no means is it going to be perfect, but it's going to be improved on what we currently see out there. Couple things we have to look at is we need to definitely separate the buses and the parents. Right now it's a little mixed in this front environment, so that's something we're going to look to improve. And then on top of that, we bring in a whole other vehicular movement of dropping preschool students off who get out of the car and walk to a building. So now we have a third movement, not just parent drop off, bus drop pick up, but it's also preschool drop off and pick up. So that is priority number 2. Next one. Priority number 3 is literacy center with zones. This kind of speaks to the uniqueness of the specialty learning environments and breakout zones that the campus currently utilizes. So they have a strong movement where they have specialty classrooms throughout. that are kind of broken throughout the campus that use them as different literacy zones. And so the idea is how do we collaborate, pull those together, collect those, and create a better improved one, and then also maybe disperse some of those out throughout the campus. So those are some ideas of those learning environments. Number 4, large PE space. PE space is actually behind you, behind those operable walls right now. It is probably half this size, or maybe be generous. So just to give you an idea that that is what they currently use for indoor PE space. So it is a need to improve that space, enlarge that space, or build a new space. That's something that's kind of looked at. Also, the idea of splitting it into 2 or some different age groups is being talked about as well. Next one. More staff and student restrooms. Told you to make the list. Up here, number 5. So the idea is that we obviously need to meet codes and requirements. We need to improve it. We need to get rid of the smells, and we need to just give better usage spaces for the students and staff. We are looking at that currently. Say there's some restrooms right here, some restrooms over here. Do we improve? Do we add to them? Do we just demo them out and start again? Those are things we're starting to explore and realize that the money can be spent there. Just know restrooms are one of the highest dollar per square foot cost from a construction standpoint. So obviously it's a commitment, it's a priority. We need to work on it, but it is a dollar amount that goes there just because of the plumbing, the underground, and the finishes are required for that. So those are the 5 priorities. Go to the next slide. We're going to go back to the Minty survey here. Hopefully this loads up. Out of all these options, which is your highest priority? I'm going to get you to rank them on the next one. This is just trying to identify if you had to pick your top priority out of those 5 that are listed. And they're listed at the bottom. Plus we added a few more down there that were on the list that didn't make the top 5. Feel free to vote on those and we'll see how that comes in. All right.
Building 11 refresh. Which one is building 11?
Building 11 is the, which one is that, Julie?
Building 11? Oh gosh.
I think that's the front one. Is that that's one of the numbers? I think we're referring to the admin there. Yeah, I think that's the admin refresh. All right, we got about 9 in right now. We get a couple more. So we can see there's a couple small ones here, onesie twosies. Top priority right now is the drive-through parent drop-off and pickup, which is obviously what we're trying to get tonight. So as we continue to progress in this process, in future meetings, you'll start to see concepts put on paper and how to actually improve that, and how do we extend that and lengthen that as we go through the process. Okay, we've got about 11 in there. Maker space collabs. It's good to see because that is a different type of learning environment, and PE is making a late run. So this was a challenge of the visionary team. You can start to see there starts to be equity across a lot of these, which means we're touching a lot of the campus. And when we start to disperse our resources across the campus, they tend to get used very quickly. So that's something we're challenged, and that's why we're starting to prioritize this. So that, as a group here, you've been here tonight, you've heard this, you see some of the challenges. As a grassroots effort, we need to share that and understand that, hey, there is only so many dollars out there. We're trying to improve the campus as best we can, and we're trying to prioritize and make sure that those improvements are being met. Anything that is still on this list and desired in the future, that's through a future bond. That'd be other monies that the district would have to go get to improve this campus in the future. Okay. Next one. Okay, now we're going to rank the priorities from least important to most important. So this is your chance to rank those priorities if you had to impact the campus the best. So this isn't just your top priority, but it's 2, 3, 4, and on down. Building 11 refresh refers to the admin, just for clarification. We'll give it a couple more minutes here. We got 8 going right now. Let's give it a few more. See, we're pretty good on the call here. Okay, so starting at the top priority, we are going to look at drive-through safe and efficient. Came in as the top priority here. As we jump down, it takes you into the PE spaces. Then we jump down here. We have updated rooms throughout the campus. This is a live vote, so the horses may change here in a second. Then we have literacy jumping in. Then we go down to restrooms. I'm sorry. That 4.9, yeah, 4.6. And then we go to pre-K and Panda. Then we go to makerspace, building refresh, and then we have the connecting doors in the classrooms. Okay. So that's a good vote. That's a pretty fair representation, I think, of what we got here tonight. So what we'll be able to do is, just so you know, this helps prioritize based on the cost that we have available. Sometimes you have outliers, like a little connecting door here or there. That still can be accomplished for a very effective cost down the road. So it doesn't mean it's just going to fall totally off, but it may be an opportunity just to throw some doors in there throughout the process. However, to do a full, update to a cold lab may be more expensive. So some of that is weighed towards as you get towards the end. Go to the next one. This shows you the priority list from the visioning committee. So they had on-site pre-K band as number 1, drive-through as number 2, literacy 3, PE, restrooms, refresh, connecting doors, makerspace, updated rooms throughout the campus. A lot of parallels there, a lot of similarities there. As you start to get down to 5 through 9, it maybe toggles back and forth a little bit, but the top priorities are kind of the same. I think the PE kind of jumped up a little bit farther than the literacy on the other vote. But again, those are things internally we start to guide us and give us as guiding principles through that. I think this, just so you know, this is a top priority for the district to help consolidate some spaces on the campus and helps to consolidate some district buildings. So that is why it is top priority there from the committee standpoint. And I think from a safety standpoint and the daily use and function of the campus, it's just critical to have everyone on one campus in one location. So that's why that's Tavan. Okay, next. Okay, we have some more questions. If you want to input any additional questions, they're specific to what you just saw, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I think we can probably jump down to 10. What are construction hours? So construction hours do adhere to city required hours. In the morning, I know they kind of vary based on the season, but they will fall within your exact time. 6, do we know that? Do we know that offhand? I don't want to give misinformation, but
6 during the summer, from 9 a.m. to 7. During winter, we will, if there's opportunities to work inside, always during the night to make it, both expedient for the whole project, get things done and work at night. There may be times that we have to do an off-hour permit, and early concrete pours during the summer. We would notify all the neighbors, we have to get a permit through the city, requiring to follow the guidelines.
So it sounded like 6:30 for the summer, 7 for the winter, or 7, yes, 6? 6 for the summer, 7 for the winter. Any night activities will be held inside as best as possible. And every once in a while, there is a concrete pour done early. That is the logistics of the material and the delivery, but that is notification done to the community via flyers or wherever it says we go out there and that process. And again, everything will adhere to city codes and requirements. Next. When is anticipated construction supposed to start? We kind of alluded to that. Keep going. Smell we talked about. Go back up one. Does district still own the lot on 46? Can it be used?
The one
With
behind.
I don't think it's 46. I think it's 64. No, it is 46. I'm sorry. Yes, we do. That is one of our maintenance yards. Many of our grounds department personnel operate out of that area, and we have a storage warehouse in there. So yes, that is our property.
At one point, the district was looking to buy the house on the corner to the west of the school. And the whole trick was somebody needed to move the house. And that was rather expensive. Did the district ever buy that lot? I don't know if the question pertains to that.
I've been here since 2016, and we have not purchased that land. So we own just what's on that 10-foot fence area, and obviously the annex building out there. Okay, next one. I'm worried about the trees and the green area in the front being impacted. If that area is altered with what is modern, blight-free solutions are how our schools present light-free. Yes, that was identified during our walks, that obviously the trees are a major environment that we want to protect and maintain out here. We do realize we're trying to make a better presence on Osborne for the school. It is kind of tucked around the corner. So there may be some selective identification of certain trees out there, but for the majority of those trees, those will be protected along with the green space out front there. What we are looking to do, though, is try and improve the gathering space for the parents, because currently they're kind of in the mix of everything with the students and all the traffic. So we're trying to relocate that to a better location potentially, but the open space will remain. There may be some minor impacts to that, but yes, the majority of that will remain. Creating a parent space in the front of the school would be great, maybe some concrete tables. Yes, so we just talked about that, yes. But safety is number one priority there and the location of that. So we're trying to improve that separation between the traffic, the buses, the walkers, and the parent drop-off. Will light pollution be part of the renovation scope? So in a couple of our more recent rebuilds, the shock
from the neighbors, the difference between the old metal halide lights to the now LED lights that are super bright, super white. We're going to work with SPS Plus to make sure that their design for the lighting is appropriate for the neighborhood. If by chance there's a part of the building that's new, that gets new lighting that's closer to the neighbors, especially their backyards, we need to be respectful of that. We have had some difficulties in a couple of our other new builds because the school was on the far north side of the property, and now it's on the south side of the property, and it's only 60 feet away from the neighbors. And so they're having some consternation about that. We're trying to get that corrected. But yes, we will be very aware of how lighting impacts the houses long term.
Dennis, people who are concerned about lights might want to go to see the whole town, just to kind of take a look at what you all have done.
Yep.
It looks very good.
So the comment there was for folks to look at some of our other campuses. Holcomb from the Oak side is fantastic. Holcomb from the south side, not so much. Because we put bus lane back there and had to light that bus lane, that's getting some light pollution for the neighbors. So we actually corrected that today, as a matter of fact. But it is important for us as they design, as we construct, that they are aware of what those impacts are, because you look out there right now and the old lights that are out there compared to the new lights that will be coming on, there is a significant difference.
Yeah, and I think it's a balance of safety and for the school side and also the pollution on the neighborhood side. So that's something we've got to continue to look at and work through as we develop the standards moving forward for the district and also for the school, exactly how we're going to approach those. There are features that you add to the lights to help shield those and direct those a little bit more efficiently, and that's kind of an additive process. Next one. Will the school be occupied during construction? Short answer is yes. At some point, we are going to have construction during school hours, but it will be notified. It will be definitely fenced off, and security and safety is top priority. Did Tavan get the same funding as Hopi or other schools for remodel? I'll leave this to the Okay. So the Hopi, FEMA, Cherokee, Hohokam, they were all slated as rebuilds, complete removal and a new school built in their place. Tavan was not. Tavan was a refresh and to address the issues that they have. Number one, parking, getting the kids off of the south side of Osborne. Those were the primary goals. So from a funding standpoint, if someone's saying, well, did we set aside $20 million for Tavan because that's what the other schools got? No, because that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to put a light touch on this thing, make sure that it is functioning the best that it can, and look at some of these problem areas. So no, from a perspective that is it a rebuild, it is not slated as a rebuild. If you go back to your brochure that the district had done many moons ago when they passed the law, this was listed as a school environment project. And when we've done our assessments on the campus, as I mentioned, it was originally built in 1955, but there's been multiple additions since then. So the environments we're looking to possibly demo or move beyond are obviously those older environments versus the newer ones that are in a little better condition as we move through that. Next one. Moving forward, where will the site plans and construction schedules be posted? Good question. So I think we do have a link on the website that we're going to utilize to share the concept as they move forward. We've also sent out flyers for notification of this meeting, so we'll have future meetings. So you'll actually see them and present it in future community meetings. as well through that. And are we gonna have any other former that I know about? I think most importantly is the district's website, the bond project website. If you go to Tavan, you'll see that we've started adding information on there, the meeting dates and schedules, but everything will be on that website.
Next one.
Next one. Will outside lighting on campus be improved? So I think the areas that we're ultimately trying to touch and improve on, yes, they'll have some improvements to the LED lights in those areas. As far as campus-wide, that may be a future district project from another opportunity, but just be the immediate areas we touch and improve those areas would be safe to say. Okay. If decisions lean more towards updating rooms, dispersing programs, how much upheaval can staff expect, or constructional resources be provided for large classroom moves for effective staff? So unfortunately, with construction comes upheaval. All of the previous major construction projects, we provided the resources. So we get a moving company out, we help you process the packing stages. That's always a perfect time to throw all of your unused stuff away. But it is a little stressful. We do everything we can to limit that stress, especially when it's during the school year. So we talked about that swing space. Let's say we decide that 3 classrooms, the 5th grade classroom teachers are going to move across the street. We would provide moving boxes, everything you need. You just need to put it in the boxes, and then we pick it up and move it across the street. You need to unpack it. Chances are you'll unpack only some of it, and then be ready for the move back a month, 2 months, 3 months later. So we do provide the resources to get you moved. You don't have to do the moving yourself, but I understand that that's still a lot of work for people that have been in their classrooms for a very long time. When you're in mid-year teaching, and this isn't going to be something that we just pop on you on Friday and say, hey, let's get packed up and we're going to move you over the weekend. We'll make sure that the schedule's laid out. Everybody knows when they're going, if they're going to go, and we'll try and work with you as much as we can to make it as less stressful as possible. Okay, we're going to jump ahead. We'll leave those last few questions. We have one more session at the end for question and answers, so we'll just group with that. Just keep moving. So we're going to explore a few of the design concepts. I think that's maybe a little aggressive word, design concepts, because they're really just ideas right now. They're not full fruition. So, but we did have a few 3 groups in the visioning team that kind of created some different block diagrams. They're not maybe the full scope by any means. They're just putting some ideas on paper. So we're going to run through those real quick and let you vote on that. So, one concept that came out of here is the idea of campus capacity reallocation. So the idea is Julie and her staff are going to have the opportunity to reallocate some of the current classrooms in the environments, because over the years, 20 years or more, people get slowly moved into corners that maybe weren't intended for them, but it was just a natural growth curve. So we're going to give the opportunity to reallocate some of those spaces. So there is talk of regrouping, the idea that we can maybe get 5th grade and 4th grade and 3rd grade and 2nd grade to regroup more appropriately, so those learning environments can improve based on age groups. And then the idea of, do we disperse some of those special education throughout all those different environments? Do we kind of couple some of those together based on the needs of the actual infrastructure? But that is the opportunity to kind of revisit that, and as a team, they're doing that. So at some point, there may be some class changing when they come back to the new campus. Next one. Option 1. This was, again, just some real quick ideas put on paper. The idea of a 2nd-story building for 5th graders. So they were looking at maybe possibly building a 2-story structure at a couple open areas in the campus. They also needed a new PE space in here, so that would be a little bit larger volume. So they've identified maybe back towards the playing fields for the PE space, maybe some new additional classrooms And here, currently underneath this red block is where the portables sit, and those will be demoed and pulled out. So a couple of the positives that came out of this was a clustered grade configuration, like we just talked about, the resources of the gifted closer to each one of those, and moving some of the resources into each one of the grade levels. Opposition, so our deltas plus deltas on this was restroom locations. So the idea is we didn't really improve some of the restroom locations, disperse it throughout the campus. Construction is spread out. It's, so the dollars are being dispersed over multiple locations. It doesn't really address the parking currently right now. And that admin is still far away from, the idea that the admin is down here, it's still far away from some of those other components of the campus. Next one. Option 2. This was a combination of some new construction, which is red, some renovation, which is yellow, and some site work. So they were looking at doing some site work of additional parking on the north side of this building we're certainly sitting in right now. Maybe just adding on to the current PE space to increase the size. They wanted to do a major renovation to the admin building up front, kind of turn into that maybe some learning spaces, academic spaces, as well as admin. They talked about building a new admin that gets some free street frontage off of Osborne down here. And then they also looked at a 2-story component. I'm sorry, take it back. They did not want a 2-story here. They wanted a single story. So that was one of their things is they said no 2-story came out of this construction. Some of the deltas concerned about storage for the library in grade 2 is attached to the library. So this is the library sits here. There's some storage needs that need to be met there, and not clear where pullout could be located. So the idea of pullout is these breakout spaces. So they needed to kind of take a deeper dive. So these are works in process. These are just the initial thoughts that we're going to continue to work through. And the last one, option 3. They took on the big parking lot. They wanted to improve in, the circulation and the length and area in there. They looked at some major construction, new admin building, possible, this is a new pre-K Panda, so that the preschool that was going to be brought over here was going to have to be located somewhere, so they thought this was a good location. I think some of that was based off the idea that the parents could park and walk the students up in a safe environment while the other ones are dropping off and picking up in the bus and drop-off line. And then they had some additional buildings over here. So admin site location at front of the school, that gave you some street frontage, to give you some identity along Osborne. Parking revision, longer drop-off was good. Condensing the new site and overall, so a lot of the activity was here from a cost standpoint, was spread across the campus. Zonal parking, so this was the idea that, hey, we know staff-wise that there's going to be some parking down here and going to these buildings, some parking up here is going to here, so we're more dedicating those spaces, so we're not just trying to hurry up onto the campus. 1 story, the focus everything here was 1 story, and the idea of makerspace in the library, so they wanted to group some of their makerspace right next to the library. That was the rethinking of the computer lab, because currently the computer lab sits there. And how can we that possibly turn into a makerspace? Deltas changed parking and not convinced about the bus-only lane. So there was talk of trying to develop how do we separate the parking or the parent drop-off and the bus drop-off. So there's still some exploration of that. Those are the 3 current ideas. They're not by no means designs, they're just ideas to put out there. If you go to the next slide. This is an opportunity just to kind of give some quick feedback, initial reactions, 30-second thought on what you saw there, based on there. We will have an opportunity to ask questions or comments. If you just want to vote here, then we can jump to the comments here shortly. Okay, we got about 13 in. Looks like everyone's kind of off their phones here. So Pretty straightforward. Option 3 has some of those, some of the better ideas, I think, that from the community standpoint. So we're gonna go to questions after that, so feel free to put some comments in there if you want, so we can kind of talk about that. So obviously, option 3 is the top priority here right now. Option 2, or option 1, and then option 2. We're gonna go to the next one. I think we're at 19, so if you want to jump down to 20. Feel free to add in some more questions. This is the last question and answer session. We are coming to an end here. I appreciate your patience tonight. I know you've been here for a little while, so I'm trying to get you out, but we also want to answer some questions. Are there building height restrictions? So, from a district standpoint, the tallest they build here is a 2-story building in the district throughout there. There are no specific restrictions through the zoning requirements for a school, but there is the idea that you need to adhere to basically 50 feet is the max you would kind of go from a building standpoint. So the school district works with the city to meet those zoning requirements and stay within those lot lines, and kind of design within those parameters. Can we get a traffic light at the intersection to help the crossing guards and keep families safer? Man, that is an awesome request. Awesome request.
It depends.
It depends. There is a lot of moving parts when it comes to traffic signals. I will tell you, we are going to work with the traffic engineer. Part of that will be a dialogue of how to get even a beacon for a crossing beacon, or even a light, a signal. But there is a lot that goes into that. So we are going to explore those. We're going to take that to the nth degree with the city and see that, and we'll go from there. Depend.
So the traffic lights have almost nothing to do with us and everything to do with the city. So the city would do an assessment of the traffic, and they would determine whether or not a light could go in, and then they would make us pay for it. But ultimately, that is a conversation that we will have to work through with the city and determine if that's a viable option.
It is very expensive.
Yes, it is very expensive. Next one. What is the threshold for deciding if the school needs a rebuild or a refresh, and what would be considered a rebuild?
So most of the school is in really good shape for a 40-plus-year-old school. There's really no reason to rebuild the school. They determined that back in 2016 that there was no reason to rebuild the school. That's why they allotted the monies to renovate the school and look at some additions and look at the parking. So we will not be looking at the possibility of rebuilding anything. We may tear down a portion of a building to reconfigure a building to create more space for drive lane or parking. But as far as if you're thinking about Pulte, Pima, Cherokee, where they fully tore down the schools and built brand new schools, that will not be happening.
This is a 16.
So there's actually only one building. Actually, I take that back. There's two. There's one in the front, and then this E-shaped building here. And those are the ones. If I was king of the world, I would want to put our hands on every part of the building and look less at building something new, but really putting a hard refresh on everything, making sure the bathrooms are squared away, making sure that all the classrooms were squared away before adding square footage to the campus. But through this process, with input from the community, input from the staff, input from the parents, we will get to what that really looks like. It may be a 10,000 square foot new building, but then all the rest of it gets renovated. So it's a process that we'll go through to make sure that we get exactly what we need for Tavan.
is there a separate budget for new FF&E?
Yes.
Yes, the answer to that is yes, it is outside of bond funding. And so, so the 6.75 million that you see is not include FF&E, it's above and beyond that. And that is slated to get new furniture. What happens to the South Campus when pre-K gets consolidated to the north?
We don't know. We haven't explored that at all.
So the focus was to really just bring the pre-K to the north side. What remains, it's still a district building, this has still its district functions. Any money that's spent on that south side is diverted from the funds that are allocated to the north side. So I think as a community, as a vision team, we're trying to keep those dollars on the north side as much as possible, which would mean that the district would put additional funding down the road into that building, depending on what they need on use. Budget doesn't provide much room for new construction. What adjacent waste funds can apply on site if improvements start off site? Okay, the last part of this is it is a very black and white line with SFP, the State Facilities Board, on what is considered adjacent ways and not adjacent ways. They do not let you have any on-site construction in adjacent ways. So the term that they use is off-site. The only thing that you can build, what would be quote on-site, would be a fire lane. It's not even what goes underneath the fire lane. So if you have utilities and water, power, and sewer underneath that fire lane, that does not count. It's only the surface of that fire lane surface on top of it. So those dollars are very strict. Yes, it would be helpful to kind of have that ability, but we don't with the state. As far as much room for new construction, yes, that's part of the analysis we're going to do as a team, and that's also with CORE on that they can give us some cost estimating. Part of the process with the prioritization is putting some budgetary dollars to those, so we can kind of start to see where the dollars getting your bang for your buck if you can, and that helps us prioritize and see how many on that list we can actually accomplish. So, next. Why not build a new admin building and parking at back of campus and tear down current admin building for parent pickup? Good question. So I know we've talked about a couple of things of where the best location for the admin building is. One challenge with today's environment is campus security and the idea that the admin tends to be the front door to the campus. So if we tend to push that front door to the back, it definitely has some filtration issues and penetration issues onto the campus that creates insecurity. So that is one thing we are looking at, where's the appropriate location of the admin. Do we build a new one and renovate the current one? Those are questions there, and there's things we're going to continue to explore as a group. And tear down current admin building for parent park. Yes, you can see a couple of those ideas. We're tearing down a few buildings, that old 1955 building that's up front. The idea of tearing that down, extending that parking, extending that current drop off and pickup into there is definitely an idea that's floating out there, increasing that queuing line. Next. What will happen to the land across the street when we move? We also have it sold to developers. I don't know, it depends, but we did talk about it. So we'll see where that goes. If there are no zoning height restrictions, what stops the district from blocking our views of the Camelback line of sight? Good question. Yeah. So 2 stories typically will run you a little bit cheaper because you're not touching as much land. But there's other things that have to be considered. You've got elevators, you've got other considerations. Like I said, if it were up to me, we would do more heavy renovation and less new build. I don't think there's a real flavor for a 2-story. I think you saw on the vote that it was mostly voting for that 1-story configuration. 2 stories just tend to raise some feathers. And not that it's not possible, it's not going to be a 50-foot tall building, but it's one of those things that we would have to work really hard at to convince the community around us that that's the right thing to do. I really truly believe this site, if we take away the portable building, take away the admin and the building behind it, we're still at 77,000 square feet. That's a big school by itself. So we need to look hard at how those renovation dollars work, how we reconfigure the spaces, and then what do we need to, so if we take the admin and remove that, that's a fairly large space, got a lot of people in it. Maybe it's a small new build, but I really don't see, I could be wrong, but I don't see a two-story landing on this property. Will the exterior of the school be modernized, paint, modern touches to make it more inviting? Yes, that is part of the process, is to modernize it with both the color for the walls and the materials, and then also update it and have that connectivity into the community. So obviously this was built back in 1955, portions of it, but we're trying to get some better connectivity into that in that process.
Let me address that real quick.
So believe it or not, this school was painted 3 years ago. So when Margaret Cerna was here, and I always come with my color palettes, and we talk about, hey, let's do this and let's do that. Margaret said, no, you're going to paint it the same green it is right now. So believe it or not, that's fairly new paint. We sealed all the block and the masonry so that we're not getting any water intrusion inside the building, but that is actually a fresh coat of paint. She just likes green. Fair enough. Okay, next one. Could South Campus be sold to raise more funds for more better improvements to the north?
I guess I should just keep it.
So selling district property is no small task. Selling property, we have to take it to the voters, and it has to be voted upon to sell it. The South property has not been a topic of discussion in the 5 years that I've been here as far as selling it. There's been plenty of talk about bringing the kids across the street, so there isn't that safety issue, but not once have I talked about selling that property. So it'll be reutilized in a different way. Maybe a district department fills that space. It's hard to say, but there's been zero discussion about that property.
I got 2 more things.
So that actually, whether or not to use that parking for parking across the street, that has been a topic of discussion, and we will explore it. But again, dollars spent on that side of the property are dollars spent over here. And if you use that as parking and the parents are dropping off over there, then the kids are still walking across Osborne. So it's an idea that we will explore. But I just don't see that as a real viable option. We have talked about that as well. If we were to raise the building and turn that into just a field, make that available for school activities. I think there was even conversation about maybe a 4th grade, 5th grade PE field, recess field. But again, we're moving kids across Osborne, and the whole goal, all the way back to 2015, was to stop having kids cross Osborne. So that's something that we'll consider, but probably not spend a ton of time on. It is a separate issue, but not entirely. So if we start renovating buildings, typically the IDFs get moved or work's done in them. I believe that the IT department's already working on infrastructure for upgraded Wi-Fi and all of that. So it will be, when we leave the school, it'll be a good school for a good long time. We won't leave it in bits and pieces where we still have to do this, that, or the other. We want to make sure that it's a holistic fix, that we've touched everything that we can, and that when we're done, that people can proudly say we're part of the Tavan community.
That's 8:33.
All right, I think we got through all of them. I think we go to the next slide. So where do we go from here? Next steps, we're going to continue to meet with the visioning committee. We meet every Tuesday. We'll continue to do that for the next few weeks to kind of digest some of the feedback we got tonight, plus push some of those design concepts further forward. We're going to establish a project schedule. Some of those concepts and questions we had up front, when's it going to start, how long is it going to take, that's going to be further realized, and we'll be able to share that out at the next community meeting to be able to answer some of those questions. Develop design concepts. We'll be able to share out future design concepts at the next community meeting to show you how those are further developed and trying to narrow down the options as well, which you guys helped out tonight to do with option number 3. And then we're going to schedule a future meeting. So notification of the next community meeting will be very similar than it was for tonight through the district website. There will be a mailer that goes out and also probably through the students, there'll be some notification as well. So did everyone receive a notification tonight by one of those means? That's the flyer. So the flyer worked. Good. The flyer worked. Sometimes it doesn't get to everyone, right? So that's good to see. And again, the website. So pass the word along. If you know other neighbors who want to listen in and be part of it, just let them know how to get a hold on the website, or another flyer will go back out. So, appreciate everyone's time tonight, your patience. We're here to help and make everyone aware and make it a transparent process. We're excited. The journey begins. Have a good evening.
Thank you.